Alright, once again, since UU story is over, I want to talk about what I liked during this certain era with OverDress to WillDress. Because ever since they rebooted the game with OverDress, the game has changed quite a lot and I really love a lot of stuff from it. Of course, there's also stuff I did not like, mainly with the distribution of certain things, aka promos, but there were a lot of things I kind of liked, so let's just get on with it. So the first thing I like, the ride deck. This is the most obvious one that has been shown and I really love the ride deck because one, you're guaranteed ride. With the ride deck's existence, you don't need to really worry about ride consistency in your main deck anymore. You are guaranteed to ride up to grade 3. And with this, deck building has been more flexible. You can put whatever grade ratios all you want, and depending on the deck, something like Bastion, you're going to be playing certain amount of certain grades. And I really love this little system with the ride deck because of this. You can now manipulate your ratios. There's even order decks. Brandgate is probably the best example of this because they have to play set orders that you have to just manipulate your ratios, maybe sacrifice your boosters. That's why I really love the ride deck. And speaking of the ride deck with deck building, because deck building has become more flexible, I really love all the random mechanics and unique playstyles that OverDress and WillDress has introduced. Because of the existence of the ride deck, you can now put random mechanics in. Things like Brandgate with their set orders, or even just like dress mechanic where you could go rear guard on top of rear guard. It's just overall a lot more fun game mechanics now because of the ride deck. And like I said before, Bastion, just play a bunch of grade 3s. The OverDress deck, you need the Trickstar and evolve the Trickstar. It's just a lot more unique stuff because of the ride deck, and now deck building has just become a lot more fun. Brandgate is probably the best example. Like I said, the set order lineup. And speaking of orders, because of the ride deck, which is the third point I want to make, is now more flexibility with order cards and non-unit cards. I really like the fact that not everything is the unit card anymore, and depending on the deck, you could actually tech in certain order cards or specific tech cards that doesn't have to be a unit. And it's something that works well successfully because, once again, it's the ride deck. So yes, more order usage is always awesome. And into the fourth thing I like the nation system because it helps out generic cards. Yes, generics could be considered for multiple decks and it can turn expensive because of it, but luckily since they designed the generic not for every single deck, and depending on deck you might not even have space for it, I'm glad they didn't completely go crazy with the generics. In fact, the main thing I really love about the nation system is the fact that depending on which nation you play, there's a specific characteristic on it. Dragon Empire is still all about mainly retiring your opponent's rear guards, but still retains each characteristic depending on deck. Dark State still maintains the soul charge aspect, but of course depending on deck it plays a little differently. Brandgate plays with set orders. Only one deck doesn't use a set order, and that's Messiah. Cater's Sanctuary focuses around a lot on rear guards, and of course Solkea focuses around a lot with the drop zone, and Lyrical focuses around supporting your rear guards. So this is something I really love about the nation system, is that each nation has its own characteristic, and depending on deck they play a little differently, and also the generic cards that you don't need to overprint like one generic card for each clan rather than one for each nation, because the clans was a little bit iffy for one, because in a way they always have to do split release when it comes to the clans. As for the nation system, every set always has a new card for each nation. It just depends on deck, it might be different, and this is something I really prefer a lot because it condenses everything to basically one card instead. And then finally, I like ride deck themes, and what I mean by ride deck themes, we got anime ride lines, non-anime ride lines, cross epics, and encounters. The only really main reason why I like this is one, there's a lot focused on lore, and two, mainly for nostalgic players, I'm a little bit nostalgic sometimes, that you could still play old decks in the modern format. Because it does in a way kind of feel sad that with the encounter decks, imagine if you cannot play your old units anymore and the old format dies. Yeah, that might be a little sad that the deck is just laying there, and yes, the deck will still technically be laying there, but making new modern version to just for modern gameplay is kind of nice as well, because yes, you could put on your nostalgic classes and just, well, basically play a unit from the past that you like. And this is something I really love about the ride line themes. You got the anime ride lines, which of course will be showing up at the anime, and there's gonna be a lot of awesome ones, but if you don't like the anime ones, there's always the non-anime ones, which will probably be cheaper because they're not showing up in the anime and no characters playing it. And if you just want to play nostalgia decks, well, you got encounters. And of course, if you want to go like awesome based lore stuff, you got cross epic. And this is something I really like about the theming system. And finally, to my final point, Great Force. Of course, this is going to relate to the existence of the Ride deck, but I really like the fact that they brought back Great Force. Because of the existence of the Ride deck, of course, deck building has become more flexible, and you don't need to really worry about Ride consistency. And because of that, I like that they brought back Great Force. I say Great Force will be a cool way to make evolutions rather than making them stick to Grade 3s. And I'm really glad that they did reintroduce Great Force, even if it's only like very specific units. I'm glad that they kind of put a little bit more emphasis, and I really hope they do more of this in the future. Of course, with the end of UU's story with set 13, and of course the main new cast with the boss units, every of the boss units kind of have their own unique way of evolution, so I kind of like that too. But preferably, I would prefer the Grade 4 evolutions, because in a way, you could say the grade is a sign of growth, so a Grade 3 turning into a Grade 4. So I really hope they do more Grade 4s in the future, but I am glad that they kind of brought it back, especially now we got the Ride deck. So that's it on my likes of OverDress and WillDress, or D format, from UU's story. What do you guys think of it? And what else could I have missed? Because of course, this is the stuff I could think of that I like right off the bat, and who knows, you guys might like other things that I might like or I might have missed. Or maybe I personally didn't like it. But other than that, that's it for this, and see you all next time.